this evening. If you please stand, pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the roll call starting on the left.
Ross Gregerson, present. Neil Bethlen, present.
Harold Merritt, present.
Marty Woodson, present.
Eddie Bass, present.
Thank you. We'll start off with Mr. Rod Mills, our engineer. Make any comments he thinks are appropriate to cover whatever ground he'd like to.
So last week was the Rural Water Users Association Conference. Lots of good presentations were made. I saw a number of you there, hit and miss. Having said that, I did have an appointment with Pam and the USDA folks. And the intent was that I was going to be able to deliver very definitive information to the meeting today, but we didn't get done. So I have a follow-up meeting with Pam, who's the representative from USDA in Ridgefield, to finish that up. Once that's done, actually there'll be access granted to a number of you to see the application, to be able to review the data, see the numbers, all of that stuff. And she said that they would, they go through the process and then they grant that those authorizations, and we can indicate to them who we want on the list and what have you. And so I think that's going to be done within the next few days, and then the application process can proceed. And that's the only way that they're telling me that they can get me the finite numbers that I'm after.
Okay.
That's just for information only, right? It's not for
At
us?
this point,
Okay.
at this
Just
point, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll all have to come back to the board.
Okay, anything else, Rod?
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Water Superintendent Dale Harris.
We discussed one of the things I wanted to bring up when we were doing our training, that was with the engineer, so I won't recover that. The other thing I would like to talk about is I'd like to make a suggestion. We've got 2 wash crossings on the other side of the road that we've gotten a lot of water. Of course, I don't know if you guys noticed, it's been raining, but that we've actually got our safety tape is actually uncovered on both of those wash crossings. So what I'd like to suggest is the district teaming up with the town. We've got culverts back here that Junior donated out of his yard, and coming up with a game plan to get these washes on the other side of the road kind of taken care of once and for all. I'd run the equipment, split the cost of the dirt or whatever, and get these 2 crossings taken care of, because now our lines are actually getting exposed by this, especially this first crossing here.
Are you talking about Apple Valley Way?
Way, yes.
At the angle, and
Yeah.
is it possible to use cinders as part of that fill?
We're gonna need something that's gonna have to be compactable. On top, yes, but my suggestion is that I think those culverts that we took out of Junior's, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're 48-inch, those concrete.
The concrete ones, yeah.
Yeah, and just building the road, taking that dip completely out of both of those washes, doing compaction on the front side of that most importantly. Getting some precast thrust blocks would be probably the cheapest route. I've got a guy that we can get those 4x3 for about $50 a piece.
Can you tell me what a thrust block is though?
They're precast thrust block. They're just a big chunk of concrete that are 4 feet by 3 feet tall by 2 feet wide. So, and they roughly weigh about 1,800 pounds a piece. Using those to build in flanks so that we've kind of got a little bit of an intake coming on the upside of that.
To help keep from erosion from...
Exactly, and then do some compaction with, I mean, the dirt out here, of course, when it's dry is hard as a rock, but when it gets wet, it just flows. So we need to, you know, whether it be some good compaction, a little bit of road base, cinders, whatever we want to discuss, but I'd like to open that up for discussion of us teaming up and getting, because
Absolutely, let's do it.
it's one thing that we're not being able to make those crossings, but today, with the runoff that we had last night, we've actually got our locator tape is, so of course we're only about a foot until we've got main line exposed.
I actually already measured that to do that and was gonna look at using those. And I think that you can only get one crossing out of what we have because of extending past. That wash kind of goes at an angle. And I think you end up using, I think there's 5 of them over there, and you'd end up using all 5 of them to get a full width road.
Well, the biggest thing is getting that influence side of both of those, you know, and that's gonna protect that'll protect the line, but it'll also keep that lane of traffic. So even if we've got to just do 2 of them, you know, because I think they're 10 feet or 12 feet long, I can't remember, but maybe 10 feet long is all they are. But it's just it's a start, but we're gonna just keep battling both of those crossings. And then on the note of crossings, once again, I just don't want to lose focus on the wash that's in front of Ross's. I noticed that your wash didn't run very much, so your pond must
No, I built a pond, yeah, so.
your pond's working like a champ. We did get a little bit of cover off of the top of the pipes that are off of the 1,000,000-gallon tank. I actually measured that this morning and dug down. We've only got about 8 inches of cover. So I'm gonna take the backhoe. We're supposed to get moisture the first part of next week, and I'm just gonna drag a little bit of that embankment off and get some cover and then reshift those rocks until we're in a spot to be able to do that. All of the work that we ended up doing there behind the 1,000,000-gallon tank is holding up with all of the rain and the heating and expansion we're getting. We're still getting like the scree that still need to get up there and get that cleaned out, work with you and end up getting some screening up on that. I got all of the yearly samples done for the Jessup well. We have quarterly samples that will happen for 59 pesticides, VOCs. Those are the only 2 that we'll have quarterly throughout the whole year. And then if all of our samples come back that they're under the EPA guidelines or no detect is what I'm hoping for, those will go to either yearly or every 3 years on 59. I would have done this other system when I sampled, but I opened up the cooler and one of the bottles had broke inside of there, and then just punctured all of, because they send me little ice packs inside those coolers. So I just need to get another cooler, and then I will have all of that extraneous sampling, everything besides our monthly bacteriological samples. Those will all be done at the first part of the year instead of them getting crammed all to the end. Need to put in the bacteriological sampling site plan for Cedar Point, which I'll do over the next 30 to 45 days. We're going to have a new IPS point system for our water system, and it's going to be called the 2020. So what they've done is any violations you've gotten are now going to be, they're going to be higher. The points assessed is going to be higher. So we're automatically, because of our ladders that are on this, our ladder that's on these 2 tanks up here, those went from, those in April go from just 10 points on our IPS report. Those will be 35 points apiece. So it'll assess 70 on there. But that's going to be the only thing that we're going to have. It's the only thing that's going to be on 270-69 is, of course, anybody that's been here for a while knows that ladder is about ready to rip off that tank basically at any time.
What does it need to be extended or just re-welded on
Well,
the
it's
Cage around it?
there's no way to put it kindly. It's rednecked to the tank, so they're just bolts, and now the bolts have actually wallered out and they're ready to pull off. So really, a new ladder and cage system would be the only way. It's a Ted Googler construction. There's not a good way of putting it. So yeah, anybody that's been up there to it, it's quite a harrowing thing to climb that ladder. As soon as you get about halfway up, the bolts start pulling tight on it. Michael Grange during the sanitary survey wouldn't even climb it.
So the bolts come from inside out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that's, of course, is going to be
What's the fix for it?
A new ladder.
Yeah, but the connection is, I mean, is it the ladder itself or?
The ladder, yeah,
satellite
the whole thing, the ladder and everything. My suggestion would be is to do an actual weld to the tank if we're not gonna be replacing those tanks. And then, of course, today's standards, you're supposed to have a safety cage that goes around that ladder. That's part of the biggest violation of that. So it needs a whole new ladder. I can price one of those out, and then we can get, maybe we can get Price to tack that onto the tank.
Thinking I'll go over and talk to Price and see if he knows where there's some, Aaron Stout, who is working down the road there. His family's in the tank business, so he might have a ladder laying around.
That's a good idea. You probably got something in your boneyard, don't you?
Not that tall. They need to be galvanized though, don't they?
Yes.
Or preferably.
Yes, yeah, or they're just gonna, fall apart like that one is actually doing, because it's just straight up iron.
Yeah.
and it's
What's the height? I got a couple resources. What's the height on that?
That height of that tank is 23 feet tall.
Okay.
And then, of course, we,
Yeah,
doesn't
the
go all the way.
ladder doesn't go all the way.
Doesn't go all the way to the ground, like the 1,000,000-gallon tank, you guys have been up there, you've got the safety lock that's on the bottom to
Yeah.
keep people from actually going up in the, right now, anybody that scales that fence can just walk right up and get into our tank, and if they wanna be mischievous, they can cut a lock and have access to the tanks. And we did, I told Harold about that, but we had somebody actually undo the latch on the man gate for those 2 tanks up there about a month and a half ago, and got into there. I didn't see where anybody got up on the ladder or anything. It looked like they just mostly had walked around the tank, but somebody had undone that bolt, and then of course that was able just to swing that locked latch completely out of the way. So I went up one morning and that gate was wide open, and the latch had sunk all the way down to the next attachment point for the fencing.
Someone needs a spot weld on it to keep it from doing that in
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah, it's just, it's, once again, it was just kind of tacked together. It definitely doesn't meet the standards of what we're supposed to be doing fencing with today.
Okay, well, then Ross and I'll take that as an assignment to see if we can find a ladder for you,
Okay.
and then talk to Price and then.
Can you get a price on what a new one would be?
Yeah,
Give us a reference.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
But I'm thinking more scrap price if we can find one.
Yeah, as long as it just meets the safety thing, that's all I'm concerned about. I would like to be able to get up to that tank more than a couple of times a year. I mean, I literally tie off. I throw up on top and tie off and climb up on that thing. It's, even the catwalk to go in between the 2 tanks is it's a harrowing thing. Yeah. And then I'm working on our consumer confidence report. I've got all of my side of my forms filled out for the water data, and I'll try to get with Ben this coming week so we can match up our numbers of what's happening with the meter reading compared to the wells, and then I'll have that all turned in. Other than that, everything's going good, just super muddy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dale.
And
Appreciate
while we're
it.
getting a quote on the ladder, can we also get Nelson to give us a quote on building one of those for us?
Yeah?
Cause he has all kinds of stuff over there.
You want me to go over and talk to Price on that, or do you want to talk to Price on that ladder?
If you want to help yourself.
Okay, yeah, I share fences with him. I'll just walk over this weekend and just give him.
Probably wouldn't be galvanized, but
Well, he's got all kinds of metal in the yard, and he has access to a lot of metal, so.
you
You
can,
can get it.
can't you just
Yeah,
powder coat it too, or is it,
Say that again?
can't you just even powder coat it, or is that?
Yeah, we can powder coat it, just so it just, we don't end up with what we've got within a couple of years again.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, if you'll do that, Ross and I'll see what we can find, and before you pull the trigger on anything, make sure we get together and.
Yeah. I'll let you guys know what it'll cost and yeah, I'll get you numbers before I just take a ladder and hook it on.
Okay. Anything else?
No, everything else is a lot of blue staking. As soon as we signed up for blue staking, I'm sure Ben's starting to see some bills from, have you seen bills from the blue stakes yet for our blue staking? We get 94 cents a charge.
You know, I saw a bill for $50 that I didn't know what it was.
Well, maybe I need to look at that and see what that is and make sure, did you already pay it?
No.
That's probably for the blue staking, but other than that, yeah, everything's good. Just to give you guys, I don't know if everybody knows, but we're only partly tracer wired over in Cedar Point. Mostly Manzanita is the only thing that's tracer wired. I'm bits and pieces over on Bubbling Wells, and that's because it was the right tracer wire and it's been cut somewhere in different places from people doing whatnot. So I'm just letting you guys know the way that I feel when I put paint on the ground over in Cedar Point. I do my best in between the hydrant valve boxes and the valve boxes I have from intersections when I put the paint on the ground where I don't have that. But I just want you guys to be aware, if I'm outside of that, that 2-foot safety zone and somebody hits that, that's our fix. So it's kind of nerve-wracking actually putting the paint on the ground, but by law we have to be on blue stakes and I have to put that paint on the ground.
Okay, well, make sure we get it in the right spot, so.
Can it be a really wide stripe? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's what I'll do, is I'll just start making it a 6-foot wide.
Just zigzag it.
Yeah, exactly. That's 2 feet here, it's 6 feet here.
All right, well, moving along here on policies, procedures, and the only thing I have that we discussed before but need to work on a solution is the valve stems that come out with the caps on them, so we can access them to turn off the valves on the main line. We're covered with chip seal, and we have about, what, roughly 30 of them, Dale?
Yeah, roughly. I think there's 28, yes.
That are under chip seal, and if we had to find them quickly, we would be in trouble. And we could shut things off, we'd have to shut the whole town down, basically. So we need to find a solution to locating those, painting them, and then breaking out the chip seal and putting a concrete ring around them.
Yeah, riser ring and concrete.
Riser ring and then putting the chip seal back on.
Can we get Kevin or somebody, I don't know, I'll find somebody to help you do that, if you can mark them, and we'll pour them in cement or something, is that?
Yeah, we just need to do, we have to, of course, I know that we've got a bunch of concrete guys in here. We just can't take concrete, of course, and then just slump it onto the concrete that's already there, or it's just gonna end up falling apart. So we've actually got to jackhammer out what was put on when the system came through, put in the riser rings, and then pour up to that is what we need to do. So we need to do an aerosol, rent an aerosol, and spend, a couple of weeks really jackhammering it all out. We don't need a concrete specialist to put those on. We just need to make sure we have the slope in the cans.
Chairman, doesn't this fall back on who covered it?
That's where I was going with this. I've talked to Interstate Rock and asked them how come they get covered up and where the deal was since they put the pipes in. And they said that they had made an agreement with the town and that they were happy with the resolution. And I tried to question them and they said, no, that we have resolved this issue and that's it. And this is just an assumption on my part, but it may have been covered in a closed meeting. It may have been covered by somewhere along the line, whether.
We'll just chalk it up to another thing that Rick left undone, and we'll have to fix it,
So
let's get it fixed, and the town will help you get it done, so, it's the right thing to do.
So we'll get, as soon as the weather straightens out, we'll get a schedule to try to do a few of those and work through it.
You have an idea on cost for those?
No, I don't, off the top of my head, like say we're gonna have to rent a jackhammer, just pour the concrete. The riser rings aren't very expensive at all. We've got some 2-inch and some 3-inch rises that's got to happen, so we don't have anything that's major for raising those. So off the top of my head, Ben,
But there's already concrete underneath there, is that what you're saying?
yeah, that's got to be taken out, because of course if we just take that and slump that on top of there, we don't really have anything to hold that. So it takes a
Right.
couple of rainstorms, people running those over, and that's just going to crumble on us is what it's. So we've got to take that out and actually.
Were those poured, or were they a cast unit that was over?
They were poured.
Okay.
They actually formed them because we didn't have the hard surface at the time. So I made them come way out from the cans and then slope them. So when I graded, of course, I wasn't just hooking those with and they're all done that way. The ones that are in the chip seal, we don't necessarily need to do them like that anymore. Get them flat because they need to end up being flat at the surface. We do need to have them in a little bit of a slope so we keep the rain from just, of course, not ending up dumping into the can. But we don't need to go to the extent that we did when we initially poured them. I mean, we probably, well, the big valve assemblies that I've got 3 in place, I mean, good Lord, those things, the whole thing probably extends out 5 feet. You know, we don't need to be, we just need something to be able to hold those riser rings and that can in place is essentially what we need now.
Pick a likely candidate and go do it, and we would have a good idea how long it took us, what it's gonna take.
Yeah.
Then we get a plan together on it.
Good idea.
We just do a test when, as
Right.
soon as the sun comes out.
Yeah, I can locate, you know.
Can we locate them with a metal detector? Or?
Oh yeah, I can find them. Yeah, I know exactly where they're at within, you know, a couple of feet where their location's at. It's by the time you get them chipped out, the concrete, of course, all I've got is a ferrous metal, can't find it stick. So what it picks up is that, of course, it gives me a good hit with the can itself, but it also picks up the whole block. So when I've got 3 of them together, it might give me a hard hit where 2 of these valves over here, and I'll be actually starting to chip away on the very edge of the concrete. Next thing you know, I've mined through the whole thing just to be able to find a lid. And you know, a good example is when Metal Art when South Central went through that. It might have looked impressive that day that I just came up and was able to stick my bar right in the ground and I was able to get that. That was just dumb luck. When we're in a super panic, you watch. There's some of these, just finding the one in front of Josie's for marking for the pledgers, that was a half an hour by the time I got that all the way out and I was able to actually get into the can. Because you've got the chip seal and the ground's frozen, so it's a little bit harder to get into the ground. But yeah, this whole time, if we've got a panicky situation going on, first and foremost, we're losing a bunch of water. Well, first and foremost would be who gets flooded out when the line's breaking and running.
That's enough.
Well,
Let's, yeah.
just one more thing on that is, if we get Kevin to help you do this first one as well, it could be that he can take and do the next one by
Yeah.
himself, or, with a young buck helping him or something.
Yeah.
And if you have time, then you can help him, but at least if we can train him how to do it, then he can probably.
Yeah, Kevin would be a good candidate.
One at a time, he could just do one here, do one there, and over the course of a couple of months, we try to get them all done.
Start with the intersections.
So,
That way
anyway,
I
just
can
a-
shut
just a
off,
thought.
yeah.
Let's make sure we include him into that, okay?
Okay,
We don't have a piping layout to show us where those things are?
No, that's why I say, I know where they're at.
But you just do the Geiger counter thing or?
Yeah, I know, I
detector
can
and
go
all
and
that
say,
stuff?
here's the intersection, I know the line's on this side of the road, I can find it, it's the whole getting the thing uncovered that takes the time.
Right.
That's the only thing that, I know exactly where the valves are at, it's just the whole thing of getting it broke out of the ground and like I was saying, not being off on the edge of the slump of the concrete and having to break all of that out before you get to the lid. Yeah, I know exactly where the valve, I got drawings, but I also was here when it all went in, so yeah, I can tell you within a foot or two where those are actually at. It's not finding them with the can't find it stick that's the hard. It's pinpointing which lid you're trying to get to and what section you're going to shut off and how long it takes you to actually get into the ground. Because of course everything got compacted to meet the standards to put the chip seal down. So it's.
Okay, well, let's, me and you and Kevin get together some sunny day in the next week or so and do a test run on one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've actually got some of them that are exposed that haven't been fully covered up that we could actually chip out and pour.
No, let's pick out a hard one.
Okay.
Make it easier one.
Okay, that's all I had was trying to get started on those so we could avoid any problems. Marty?
Yeah, I don't have anything on this item today.
Okay. Mr. Bass?
Well, I don't have anything either, because I haven't got anything back from any developments to say what they're gonna do, what they're not gonna do. Once they do, then we can go over a lot of this documentation and compare it with what they're saying they want. Until then, we're just kind of up in the air. Once Harold decides what he wants to do, or over here on this project, or Hank, I mean, excuse me, and you too, then we'll go from there and see what they want to do. Other than that, nothing.
Okay, thank you, Denny. Ross Gregerson.
Okay. Well, I know we're in mud and rain, but spring's coming, we're gonna be pumping water again. I'm thinking about the Cook well. But I think that's our next well that we need to get upgraded online, so we have some redundancy over there.
Yep.
I mean, I know we've got a new pump and everything's running great, but a little lightning strike or something and
It's not so
we'd be in
great.
panic.
Yep.
My question is, did we get any resolution, maybe Ben can answer this, where are we on that money that we found or didn't find or something from our meeting?
Yeah, so we have 40,000 in escrow left over on well 59. That's what's.
Okay. So I mean, I guess, I mean, we don't know where we are, we haven't finalized with Ensign or how, I guess we're gonna have another meeting, is that coming up with them to finalize?
I haven't seen anything come through. Any more discussion on it?
What happens if we make believe that's ours in its entirety?
We make signs, license plates for the rest of our lives.
How about half of it?
Well, I mean, I guess my point is, I think we've got some money there and it needs to be allocated for these wells. And I think our next one, in my opinion, would be Cook well, right? To get that back online and get it upgraded to a VFD and all that kind of stuff, right?
Could you get some prices on that?
Okay,
From Southwest and whoever?
okay. Okay,
A couple of different outfits, and so we know what we're talking about.
okay. And the other thing, maybe this ladder could go under that category if it's submitted, right? I mean, isn't that upgrading, wasn't that, from my understanding, and even from Curtis at Ensign, that we can't just take that money out of the account, but if we submit and it could be allocated for projects specifically on the wells, right? Wasn't that the understanding?
That wouldn't be an upgrade either, that'd be a repair. I don't know if that's,
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a way, I think there's a way that we can word it, right?
Well,
And get it.
Ben did it, I'm sure. Whatever.
See how that works?
Yeah, I saw that.
Well,
I'd be happy to look into it and see and identify what those funds can be used for.
Yeah,
And then we need to get in touch with Ensign and find out how we're gonna wind this thing down.
do we need another meeting? I mean, Rod, what do you think? Is this something we need another meeting?
So I thought you did an analysis and sent them a letter. Because what I got back from Ensign was just a call that said something to the effect of they did an analysis, and I don't want to speak out of class here, but that we don't owe them any money. Is that incorrect?
Yeah, I mean, more or less, I think that was the context.
And I haven't seen the letter or anything. Ben was taking care of that, but that's what I heard back.
can you clarify, because we had a $50,000 or so bill, didn't we, from them?
Yeah, 54,000, I think, wasn't
And
it?
so you're saying we don't know them anything?
This is specifically referring to work done on well 59.
Okay. Then we're all paid up on that one.
It depends who you ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and Chairman, I think that's why we might need another meeting with Ensign, because again, there was stuff they had on that bill I mean, asphalt, I mean, you know, stuff on that bill for 59, it didn't,
Yeah.
even with your numbers, we don't owe anything, but if we look at it, there's still other things on there, so.
I think Ben did an excellent job with the letter in that he documented it down to around $11,000 and had said that there had been a great deal of work done by you and me and others, and Dale had engineered most of it. And so the billing from Ensign covering those items were null and void, so the bill should be zero. And I thought there'd be a response, bang back, I heard thanks.
Essentially, the language used was that the district has grounds to dispute the charges as they were outlined, so.
So, if you wouldn't mind, if you could get in touch with them, ask them what their response is, if they'd like to get together, if they wanna call it off, what they wanna do.
I will.
Well, and we might as well tackle that town side too, because we're in a similar situation.
Any, thanks, Ben, for that research, that was helpful, yeah.
That was a great letter, Ben.
Yeah.
That was a great letter.
Okay, that's really all I have, Chairman, and I'll go ahead and get some quotes.
Okay, then, see if maybe those folks out of the ladder line are around.
Yeah, no, that's already on my side.
Moving on, Neil Duncan.
I don't have anything on the tank, haven't seen any reports or anything on it, so. don't
Yeah,
have anything.
that's kinda tied to a project, when it unfolds and the tank will come with it,
Yeah,
so we kinda stuck
Is this
there.
on that Gooseberry Mesa?
That's Gooseberry Mesa, that's part of their,
I just was thinking that, Danny and I haven't seen the developer agreement that you guys might be in the middle of. So is it something we
do
could,
you have that, the
Yeah.
development agreement with Gooseberry Mesa?
because I would think that the town's real close to coming together on that, and you guys would be in the same place? Come together on a
Yeah,
developer agreement, or no?
I haven't been a party to any activity on that.
Oh, okay.
I thought we had an MOU on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was put together and it's just been in cold storage waiting for
The town,
the coordinated
okay.
Yeah.
document.
But that 150,000 gallon tank is on the MOU.
Yeah,
And I've talked to Travis Holmes and he has agreed to give us a location for it on the hill,
Okay.
so.
Maybe it's something that's on the server, the MOU, then, you could look that, Ben. I just thought, I should probably look at that as, now on the water side and the town side, we just say, are we on the same page? It's,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
So, I'd hate to sign it and then find out that, the water side wasn't covered or something, but,
Yeah,
Anyway.
it should be in there somewhere. Is that it, Neil?
that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Consent calendar, Ben Billingsley. We all have a copy of it. I've been through it several times today, and I talked to Ben this afternoon earlier and asking for some additional documents and assistance, and we came to an agreement, so I've been through it and I'm good with it. I'd entertain a motion to approve it.
I make that motion, we approve the consent calendar as shown.
I'll second that.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Okay. Minutes from 1/3 and 2/7 of 19. I've read those and would entertain a motion when you gentlemen have read yours.
Chairman, we need to do them separate because I was absent for one and
That's right, let's
Danny
do
was absent.
the January 3rd.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for January 3rd, 2019.
I second that motion.
Vote.
Aye.
Abstain.
Let's see. Aye.
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 Okay, and then the motion for the minutes on February 7th of 19.
Yeah, I make a motion we accept the minutes from the February 17th meeting.
Second. Okay, vote.
Aye.
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 Aye,
Who seconded it? I didn't hear that.
that was,
Who
Neil,
did
wasn't it?
Neil. Neil.
Neil seconded?
How's that?
I don't know of any reason for a closed session, so anybody want to adjourn?
I make motion we adjourn.
Vote.